A show based on the facts, honesty, the man, the myth, the legend, Constitutionalist Joseph M. Leonard.
Welcome to Constitutionalist Politics Podcast, aka CTP. I am your host, Joseph M. Leonard, and that's L-E-N-A-R-D. CTP is your no muss, no fuss, just me, you, and an occasional guest type podcast. Really appreciate you tuning in. As Graham Norton would say, let's get on with the show! Hello, everyone. This is going to be a quick cheat intro segment. I'm going to be lazy. I've got so many guest recordings built up. I'm going to get lazy and cheat on some Saturdays. I don't have to dream up a monologue topic this way. And I'm also not going to say what guest will be appearing because I'm going to be lazy and cheat and use the same intro several Saturdays to intro a guest show. So as Graham Norton used to say, let's get on with the show. Surprise interview. Take care, God bless. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Constitutionalist Politics Podcast. Today, not likely to have anything to do with Christianity or politics, unless if he's got a partisan cake to sell. Joining me today, mutual friend of Mickey Mickelson, Mark Morton, and about his amusing, acclaimed, and erudite cupboard love, a dictionary of culinary curiosities. It's back in print for the first time in two decades. I never get tired of talking about my faith, but it does get a little boring, only talk of politics all the time, right? So, yeah. Hey, cupboard love. Okay, let's have some fun.
So, yeah, thank you for having me. I'm really pleased to be here. You want me to tell you what the book is generally?
Well,
and then
let's do the proverbial first things first.
Sure.
You know, the proverbial first question. I like to joke. Cue the Who song. Who are you? Who, right? Where were you born? When were you raised? How much time did you spend in prison? And is that where you learned how to cook? You know, those details.
What makes you think I'm not still in prison?
Are you married? You may be then, yeah?
Yeah. Right, that's right.
Just a joke, people. Just a joke.
Well, I'm in Kitchener-Waterloo, Ontario, and you're in Detroit, aren't you?
I've been through Kitchener many a time. Played hockey in Kitchener many a time. Yeah.
So just kind of north, and in fact, my youngest son Matthew just arrived like about 15 minutes ago, and he lives in Windsor, so just across the lake,
across the river from me. Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Yeah. So
I almost literally could throw a stone from my house across the river into the suburbs of Windsor. Windsor proper is a fun fact. For those who don't look at a map often, Windsor, Canada is actually south of Detroit. Think of, the way Michigan is, do the hand thing, however it works, right? Below, in the thumb area there is Detroit. Windsor kind of is like my thumb for those seeing on behind the scenes video channels. It's actually south of Detroit.
But okay, before I tell you about myself, I got to tell you one more geographical fact that I think is amazing. So the southernmost point in Canada is Point Pelee National Park.
Yep, been there.
It's actually north of the very it's actually south of the very northern tip of California. Can you believe it?
Yeah, it dips down that far. Yeah. People think Canada, they think, oh, just that frozen, you're Santa's neighbor, right? You're all up there. But no, people don't realize, because it does get so cold so far north, all of your population really is in the southern part, just over the border from the States.
Yeah, something like 85% are within 100 miles of the U.S.-Canadian border, I think. And there's 20 states in total, I believe, or 20 some, that are actually have components of them that are south of parts of Canada, like Vermont, Maine, so on and so on.
Yeah.
So as for me, I grew up.
No, that's it. We're just here for a geography lesson.
Yeah. Well, I grew up north of North Dakota in the province of Saskatchewan, the Great Prairies of Canada.
Go Eskimos. They're always going to be the Eskimos to me.
The Eskimos and
the Elks, the Eskimos.
Yep.
No, it's the Saskatchewan Rough Riders. I'm thinking of Edmonton.
Edmonton Eskimos. Yeah. Saskatchewan doesn't have a hockey team, but Alberta.
Yeah, that's kind of weird. Eventually, they've got to get a team back in Quebec, and they should get a team in Saskatchewan eventually. Yes. One in the Eastern Conference, one in the Western. We need a team back in Atlanta again. It took a while. We got a team back in Minnesota after the North Stars became the Dallas Stars.
That's right.
And we need a team back in Phoenix now that they're the Utah Hockey Club.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think that'd be great. I think there's fan support for it. And, so anyways, I grew up on a small farm, a small poor farm, born in 1963. So I'm now 61, which I don't know how that happened.
I turned 63 this year, so I'm with you.
You know what one's knees start to feel like then. Yeah. And then I went to university and majored in English literature. And then eventually I did a PhD in English literature, 16th century English literature. And then while I was teaching in English departments in a few different universities, I started writing books. The very first book that I wrote is the one that, Mickey got us in touch about, which is Cupboard Love. And it came out, the first edition came out like 30 years ago. Then a second edition came out about 25 years ago. And now a third edition has come out just a couple days ago. So
I love it. Yeah. No, you mentioned English lit, so I got to tell you my Joe original Shakespeare joke.
Yeah.
To be or not to be, 'tis truly the question. Because if it's to be, I got bingo. Get it? To be. Bingo, yeah.
Well, let's see. I think I can match that one. So there's a couple of philosophers. So what's his name? Sartre. I forget Sartre's first name. Says to be is to do, and then Kierkegaard says, oh, to do is to be, and then Sinatra says, doobie doobie doo.
I think I've actually heard that one before, or a variation.
That's a good one.
Yes, yeah. What was the one you said in the? You asked how I was doing. I said could be better, could be worse. What was?
Oh yeah. That's the old one about a statistician. He's got his feet in an oven and his head in a refrigerator, and he says, on average, I'm feeling fine.
Yeah, but I can never pass the lame puns. I loved it, so I wanted you to share it.
Yeah.
But indeed, at any rate, let's talk cooking.
Sure. Yeah. So the book I was mentioning, Cupboard Love, it's a dictionary of the origins and histories of food words in English. And English, as I'm sure you know, has a very, very well, I think it would be fair to say it's got the richest vocabulary of almost any language, because we've had collisions or conflicts or interactions with so many other cultures and languages, going back to the ancient Romans when they came to
originally English, more or less a Germanic dialect derivative. And which is why today in Germany, in the middle of a sentence, you'll hear an English word because there still was no German word for that. Yeah.
Yep. Or lots of words like the German word for king is König. And if you see that, Koenig, it kind of looks like king, so you can see
exactly. There's a lot of words like that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And then the Vikings came, in the 10th century, and a whole bunch of Norse words came in to England then. And then in the Renaissance, the 1600s, a whole bunch of Latin and Greek words. And then
some French violated it.
And some French. Yeah, you're right. I forgot about the French. 1066 conquering England, the Norman conquest, and it totally transformed the English language. I mean, probably 40% of the English language now is French in origin. And then indigenous languages, like when Europeans came to North America and they encountered the indigenous peoples here, they took a lot of words. And then, of course, as they started sailing around the world and went to Africa and Caribbean and China and so on, took all the food words from there as well. So it's a really rich history of food words and cooking words in English that we have. And there's about 1,000 entries in Cupboard Love. And each entry explains where a different word comes from. So
give us. I don't want you to give away the book.
No.
Tease us. Give us one. What's a favorite? What do you like? Why do you like it? Where is its origin? What's it about?
Okay. Well, I'll give you a couple. Sometimes when I'm giving interviews, I'm thinking, oh, is this going to be okay for me to say in this interview? I get the impression on this one it'll be okay. So. Avocado, for example. Avocado.
How dare you? Yeah.
It gets worse. No, it comes from the languages of one of the languages of Central America is it was called Nahuatl. I'm probably not pronouncing it correctly. And in that original,
I can't wait for the transcript to stumble on that word.
Yeah, right. Well, if you think about what an avocado looks like, it might not be surprising that in that Central American indigenous language, it means testicle.
Well, there goes the G rating on this show. No.
And, a lot of words are like that. Like, what's another? Okay, this isn't an especially common one, but there's a kind of cake called Liebesnocken, and if you
Gesundheit. Yeah.
And Liebesnocken means bone of love, and it's a cake that is elongated. When it's served with 2 almonds at one end, and it's
a phallic cake.
Exactly. Yeah, it arose as a fertility remedy. So
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So a lot of food words have to do with sex, surprisingly.
Interesting. Yeah. I'll have to flag this PG-13. Yeah.
Right. I'll give you another example that is, suitable for children of any ages. There's something called funestrata, and you probably haven't heard of it, and there's a good reason for that. But it's a word that appeared on surveys that were given by the U.S. military to their soldiers because they wanted to find out what kinds of foods they liked and what kinds of foods they didn't like. So one of the things they asked about was funestrata. Now, the thing about funestrata is it doesn't exist. It's never existed, but what they wanted to do
was a made-up word. It's kind of a test word to throw in there to test the survey, like a psychology test. Right. A test question that there is no real answer for to see how you respond. Yeah,
exactly. A test for validity. So if somebody said, I love funestrata, well, they'd know, ignore that one.
Throw that survey out. Yeah.
So funestrata was one of those words. Baked ermel, was another one. Braised trach, none of which exist.
Well, you should invent one, right?
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Invent a dish to go with those now.
Another this one I love too. Back in, when was it? I think it was probably the early 2000s on The Simpsons, the sitcom The Simpsons. There was an episode where Homer crosses the tomato plant with the tobacco plant and creates something he calls tobacco, which he describes as delicious and highly addictive. The thing that happened, though, after that is an actual botanist, I guess, or geneticist, he realized that tomato and tobacco, they actually come from the same plant family. They both belong to the nightshade family, and therefore they could theoretically be crossbred. And so he did this, and he called it, of course, the tobacco, which he took the name from Homer. So it's amazing. Life imitates cartoon.
Yeah. Although it doesn't, I was never a smoker, so it doesn't sound very pleasant. I don't think I'd try it.
No. I mean, especially when we already have some foods that seem addictive, like chocolate and potato chips. I mean, who can stop eating potato chips once you start?
Oh, yeah.
Maybe they put nicotine into them or some other thing.
Well, the salt craving usually, unless if you're buying an unsalted chip, a baked unsalted chip.
Yeah, and what's the point?
Yeah, right. They don't taste so.
Salt, sugar, and fat. That's the three things that humans crave. Yeah, so that's basically what Cupboard Love does. It's got 1,000 of entries like that explain where these various words come from. I'll give you one other example, and this is sort of more of an academic one. So the word loaf, as in a loaf of bread, that's one of the oldest words in English. Goes back to about the 4th century at least. I mean, we can't really go back further than that. And back then it was pronounced, to get my throat going here, it was pronounced chlaf, like H-L-A-F, chlaf. And there was another word that it came to be kind of latched onto, which was weard, which is where we get the word ward and guard. So a chlaf weard was a loaf guard, which was their word for the king, the local king who looked after you, because he looked after your bread. If you didn't have bread, you were going to die. So the chlafward, the bread guardian, was a really important person back then. So that's chlaf and how it's related to loaf.
Yeah. I don't think it's much of a laugh. Ha ha ha. For the sake of the transcript, we're laughing. That's another joke, people. Lighten up, right? So there aren't really any recipes per se also in the book.
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
It is a myth that terrorism stopped during COVID. Unfortunately, mainstream media opted to prioritize pandemic hysteria over promoting all news. Terrorism continues. Simply hoping that it doesn't affect you is not a strategy. The new book, Terror Strikes, coming soon to a city near you, featured on The Author Show, is now available in paperback from bookstores, online, or as an ebook exclusively through Amazon Kindle. Terror Strikes, coming soon to a city near you by Joseph M. Leonard. Order today.
There aren't. Although I did another book I've written and had published 4 different nonfiction books and one novel. One of the other nonfiction books is called Cooking with Shakespeare, and it's about food culture in 16th century England.
To go back to my Shakespeare joke,
there you go.
We're tying everything together.
It's beautiful. It's all unity. And that does talk about food culture, like it talks about what people ate, what manners were. And some of it's pretty horrifying. What they didn't eat, because things that we eat, some of the things we eat, they didn't eat. Like they didn't eat lobster unless they were very poor, because they thought lobster was basically like a bug of the sea.
Yeah. That is weird, because that also reminds me of ribs. Ribs today are expensive and more deemed as an upscale thing, like the lobster story. When ribs in the past were the schlub of meat thrown together for the farm hands, the ranch hands.
Like the best cuts of meat back then were, some of it were like what we now consider offal, like the liver, the kidneys, the heart, stuff like that. If you were a noble and you went hunting and got a deer, got some venison, you would make sure that you ate the heart, because there was still this feeling that it would make you courageous, because of its association with the heart and courage and so on. So things that they ate that we no longer eat, a lot of birds, how many birds do we eat nowadays? Chicken, turkey, duck, geese, not a lot of other things. Back then, basically any bird you can think of, they ate. So even sparrows, even tiny little birds like sparrows, and you might
Wouldn't
say,
be much to that. Yeah.
oh no, tiny little drumsticks. But they had interesting ways of catching them because they're obviously too small to shoot or get hit with a
Yeah.
or something.
Yeah, you shoot one and you would be blowing it to bits. Yeah.
Yeah. But what they did is they went to, pine trees and they took, the resin, which is the sticky resin on them. They'd get that, or tar. Tar would work as well. And they would put it on the branches of a tree. These poor little birds would land on the branches and get stuck. And then people would come along and just pluck them off the tree like apples. So that's how they would catch little birds like sparrows. They ate crows. Yeah, they ate.
Well, there's the old saying, eating crow.
Exactly.
So, yeah, that
Exactly.
has an origin in reality. Why it's become what it's known today.
Yeah. Well, that's because crow over time, probably by about the 19th century or so, came to be seen as something that only the poor people ate. So when you ate crow, it was like you were doing something humiliating. And the expression humble pie, to eat humble pie, same kind of thing there, because humble or umble, because of how they say they drop the H's in the UK and England. Umbles used to be the word for intestines. So umble pie was intestine pie. And eventually, when that came to be seen as a pretty awful thing, as I think most people do.
Yeah, yuck. I wouldn't eat it. Yeah.
No. It became seen as a really humiliating thing to eat. So humble pie, humble pie.
Yeah, I don't care how poor I may be. I don't think I want to eat intestine.
Yeah. Although I think a lot of places still use intestines.
Sparrow, even.
Yeah. But intestines, of course, were the original sausage casing and still are, used in that way. And that's actually where we get the word pudding from. Have you ever heard the expression, oh, he socked me right in the pudding, right in the pudding, right in the intestines, because the English word pudding came from the French word boudin, which means intestines, because puddings were originally, like puddings as in meat puddings or haggis, that was considered a pudding. They were made in intestines. So, yeah, I forget where I came from with that, but
yeah, well, it is amazing and fascinating that, and obviously, unless they hear us talking, they're not likely to find this anywhere else. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
This isn't the kind of thing people generally would go onto the internet to find.
Exactly.
But it is amazing in the whole overall sense of language and how it developed and came to be, and the origins of things.
Yep. And there's some, I'll give you some examples of some things that are kind of specifically U.S. Like, as I mentioned, I grew up in Saskatchewan, north of North Dakota. And there, what most people call jelly donuts, we call Bismarcks.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Why is that?
Well, I think because of Bismarck, North Dakota. And of course, earlier on, of course, that changed.
I was thinking Germany.
Well, yeah. I think you're right. What was Bismarck? He was the
Otto von Bismarck. Yeah, the famous ship.
Yeah.
Hence named after. Yeah.
And some people call the same things jam busters. I mean, that pastry for some reason has lots of different names across North America. So does what do you call a long sandwich that has meat in it and stuff like that? Yeah, what do you call that kind of sandwich on a long bun?
Right. Well, yeah, either a hoagie or like at Subway, you would call that a what? I'm drawing a blank right now, but yeah. I gotta ask you, do you put mayo or vinegar on your French fries?
Yeah, I like mayo and vinegar, definitely. Yeah,
And
yeah,
most listening in the U.S. is going, "Oh my
yeah,
God!"
yeah. Well, and poutine, of course, is one of Canada's contributions to food words. But yeah, you mentioned hoagie, which is interesting. I thought maybe you would call it that because of being in Detroit. Elsewhere, like further south than you, some people call it a poor boy or a po' boy. What else is it called? It's got about like 8 different names across the
Yeah.
U.S. Oh,
What is it that Johnny's sub shop
yeah, subs. Yeah,
submarine sandwiches? That's what I
yeah,
was trying to think
yeah,
of. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's got a lot of different names for some reason. I mean, there's a lot of regional foods like that. Just trying to think of another. Oh, here's one. Down in the States, I believe, you can confirm this for me. There's a berry, and I think it's called the service berry. Have you heard of that?
I'm not familiar.
Okay. Okay. Well, where I grew up, it's called the Saskatoon berry. It's a really good little berry. It makes a beautiful pie. But yeah, it's got different names in different places. Nanaimo bars. Have you ever had that?
No,
It's
no.
a it's a dessert. It's chocolate and what else? Graham crackers and stuff like that. It's a Canadian invention,
So
apparently.
it almost sounds almost like a bit like a s'more
Kind
type
of.
thing.
What else does it have in it? It's
Chocolate
something.
and graham would be s'more-ish.
Yeah, and marshmallows. Yeah. So
Okay,
it's I guess
yeah.
it's kind of similar. It's more dense though. And it's named after there's a city in British Columbia called Nanaimo where I guess it was invented as far as anybody knows. Yeah.
Mm. And
Yeah.
of course, we're arguing over different pizza types these days.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
Detroit style, New York style, Chicago style.
Yeah.
Detroit style really is actually Greek pizza. People
Uh-huh.
don't understand. Like we have Greek Town in Detroit. You
Yeah.
go to
Yeah.
Nicky's. That's kind of where the original Detroit
Hmm.
pizza came from. And it's really Greek, which is much more doughy,
Yeah.
a lot more sauce, very little cheese. So
Huh.
whenever I go to like Nicky's to order Detroit style Greek pizza there, I say,
Mhm.
extra cheese, please.
Yeah. 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 Well, in Saskatchewan, where I grew up, the way they make pizza is they put the meat on top, so it's not cheese on top.
That's
It's
Detroit style.
is that right?
Detroit style, Greek style, thick
Hmm.
crust,
Yeah. Yeah.
square. Yeah, the sauce is kind of almost a sauce sandwich.
Yeah.
Dough, sauce, cheese, more sauce.
Yeah. 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 It gets messy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
in the Greek pizza, they bury the pepper, they bury the meat under
Yeah.
whereas like you're saying though, usually the meats are on top of the cheese.
Yeah. 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 And I love Chicago pizza, and I love Chicago as a city. I think it's an amazing city. And
If you don't get shot
well,
while you're
yeah,
there, yeah.
yeah, we stayed out of certain areas, that's for sure. Yeah, but
Well,
that
I
Miami,
mean, still true. Detroit's a lot better, of course, than
yeah,
60 years ago, but
yeah,
still,
yeah,
there's parts of Detroit that look like Hiroshima after
yeah,
the A bomb went off,
yeah,
still
yeah,
blown out.
yeah,
You want to stick downtown, like
yeah,
Chicago, you want to stick
sure,
downtown.
yeah. And of course, there used to be so much, well, not commerce exactly, but so much exchange between this part of Ontario and Detroit and Chicago back in the days of Prohibition, because they were running stuff back and
Oh,
forth all the
I'm
time.
in Wyandotte. I used to work at a drugstore
Yeah.
that had a tunnel in the basement
Oh, is that
over
right? Yeah,
over
yeah,
to Windsor. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
It was cordoned off and sealed off and shut in, but
yeah.
that tunnel was still down there.
Yeah, yeah. Well. Speaking of alcohol, I'll give you an example of an alcohol word like whiskey. Not surprisingly, it comes from a Gaelic word, like an Irish word, whiskaba, that means water of life. You know, and then no,
Well,
sorry, I'm incorrect. Not water of life, fire water, water of fire is what it comes from.
now
Yeah,
that makes sense. Yes.
yeah.
And I, well, two things like the tunnels under the river between
Hmm.
Detroit and Windsor. And of course, because the river is most narrow there was a
Hmm.
lot of running above the water and under the
Yeah,
water.
yeah.
But yeah, years ago, I mean, if I were to hop into a time machine and go back to the 1700s, you don't want to be drinking the water.
No,
That's
no.
why they drank alcohol. It was almost like 3-2 beer. It wasn't necessarily heavy, but the alcohol process was a purification process.
Yeah, you're exactly right. I used to teach courses in Shakespeare, and one of the things I told my students was that when Shakespeare was writing his plays, he was kind of like half drunk all the time because, like 2% beer, like you say, that drinking the water out of a well in London.
Bad idea.
Because there were, in Shakespeare's time, it was a pretty big city already, 200,000 people, and, they just threw stuff into the gutter and let it run away.
Let it run into the water supply. It got into the water table, which got into your well. And you didn't want to be drinking that without doing something to it. That long before the concept of chlorination and other chemical things to help purify it, and charcoal kind of filters to filter things.
Yeah, they called it small beer. In other words, what we might call weak beer, or in Canada, we might call it American beer.
Well, I used to work for Diversity Wine, which was a subsidiary of Morton. I used to love the Morton ice beer. I used to go over to California's Musical Roadhouse in Windsor all the time. Morton ice was my beer.
Yeah, it was good. I don't know. I haven't had that in a long time, but it was a very dry beer, if I recall correctly.
But it was like 5.5% volume alcohol. So you didn't need a case of beer to, the goal wasn't necessarily to be drunk, but buzzed was usually part of the equation.
That's right. Other like gin, gin, as you probably know, comes from the juniper berry, and juniper comes from Geneva, the city of Geneva in Switzerland. So gin probably was invented there. Kind of the way that hamburger, that kind of meat probably was, maybe it wasn't invented because, I mean, how hard is it to grind up meat, but it certainly became associated with hamburger.
It just became more popular there.
Like Frankfurters becoming associated with Frankfurt. The strange thing that happened, though, was that people forgot, I think, most people forgot that hamburgers were called that because they came from Hamburg, and they started to think that
they don't come from a pig, right?
Exactly. But that's why the beef industry in North America in the 1970s, I think, a lot of them stopped calling them hamburgers and started calling them beef burgers because they wanted to emphasize to people this is beef.
Right. Yeah. Whereas today, that sounds like some people might want a hamburger actually made like a turkey burger or whatever, right? Which obviously brings me back to the Canadian thing. Canadian bacon versus U.S. bacon.
Right. Yeah, here we call Canadian bacon back bacon.
But Canadian bacon is ham, actually.
Yeah. From that part. Yeah. And it's often it has a coating of what kind of meal is some sort of not oatmeal. I forget what it is, but it sort of has this coating of a meal, like a grain meal, and salt on it.
Yeah. Well, I'm betting people tuned in and probably thought maybe, or I don't want to say probably thought. I'm not meaning to insult this topic, obviously, but might have thought to themselves, do I really want to hear this? But see, it's a lot more interesting than you thought when you tuned in, isn't it? I'm talking rhetorical question to my audience, of course.
Well, I think that almost anything either is interesting or can be made interesting. If you're talking to the right person, there's interesting things about everything, I think. Maybe not tax law, but
Oh, and you certainly know taxes over there.
Oh, yeah,
GST, PST. I mean, you got more taxes than we got. Got way too many.
Yeah, one of my daughters bought a used car just a couple of days ago,
Oh,
and
God.
there's tax. I was shocked. There's tax on it.
The tax was more than the car, right?
Well, not quite, but most things don't have taxes on them if they are a used good, but cars do in Ontario for some reason. I don't know why.
Oh,
Yeah.
they do here too. Yeah.
Oh, they do.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. A sales tax will apply, and of course the other hidden tax, registration fees, and then of course the insurance is a form of a tax.
Yeah, that's kind of like when you try to book a place on Airbnb. Oh, $29 a night, and then there's all these hidden taxes and
fee.
Yeah, $200 a night. Yeah, that got me off. I haven't used Airbnb in a while because that started to annoy me.
Yeah, it's like too with some of the music artists have been complaining, and we've changed a bit of the scalping laws and whatnot. And in a way, hidden fees are now a form of scalping. No, you've got to. The ticket costs, you don't get to hide an additional 50% in local tax or stadium tax and venue fee and venue security add-on, and you've got to disclose up front. And it's been the same complaint about airlines forever, right?
You're right.
This fee, that fee, the other fee. Oh, $10 to Vegas. 110 when you're done. Yeah.
And even more if you want to take baggage and want to wear clothes while you're on the plane.
Exactly. If you don't want to be stacked in like lumber.
I think this must have been a joke, but I remember a few years ago.
Want to sit in a seat?
Yeah, I was going to say, but there was I think there was an airplane that was saying that it was going to do that, but maybe it was a parody or something like that. Can I give you a couple more examples of food words? Just going down to the
go right ahead. We'll start to wrap it up.
So some words like burrito might not be surprising that it means a little burro. In other words, a little donkey/ass kind of creature. Chimichanga, another Spanish food or Mexican food, literally means monkey chimney, because I forget why it's named the monkey part, but the chimney part is related to the word chimney. Oh, in Italian, vermicelli means little worms. Ravioli means little turnips. Spaghetti, of course, means little strings. I mean, there's so many hidden meanings and hidden origins behind almost every word.
Yeah, you would want, let's have a plate of hidden worms. No, thank you, I'll pass. I'll go eat the intestines instead, right?
And another one is spaghetti puttanesca, which puttanesca in Italian means prostitute. It's spaghetti in the style of prostitutes, because I guess there was a certain kind of style that arose. I don't know why, but it's crazy.
Interesting. Okay, obviously, Cupboard Love, a dictionary of culinary curiosities. I take it's available at Amazon. 80% of all books are sold there. Where else could you find it potentially?
Well, Barnes and Noble, basically any place online, or if you want to support your local bookseller, if they don't have it, they will order it, of course, and you probably should be able to get it within a couple of days.
It has an ISBN number so that it's universally could be ordered.
And you can get there. It comes in ebook version if you want to get it for your Kindle or Kobo or whatever. So,
do you have a professional or personal or book related website?
Oh, yeah, it's just my name, Mark Morton, MarkMorton.ca, not .com, but .ca.
Right. You guys are weird with the internet up there too. Yeah.
No,
true. I mean, it makes sense. Actually, we're the weird ones, right? There's CA.de for Denmark, and most the other nations have a country designation on the end.
Yeah, that is true.
But the U.S. market is so much more large. that
Yeah.
we break it down into additional other things.
Yeah, like
so,
.us, .gov, and org, stuff like that. Yeah.
Right. Like my book, terrorstrikes.info, because
Oh.
.book wasn't available
Oh, is
yet.
that right?
That's supposed to come available at some point. I was hoping for .book. That would make sense. There should be a .book, right? There's .tv. There should be a .radio for radio stations.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's getting better. They're getting there. And they have to, because there's a bazillion websites. You're going to run out of domain extensions.
Yeah, that's right. No, I think that's quite right, and makes me think too. You know, there's another Mark Morton who is far, far, far better known than I am. He's the lead guitarist of a death metal group called Lamb of God. And it's funny because sometimes people will email me and they're actually trying to get a hold of him. And so I got in touch with him years ago and I said, hey, somebody sent me this, but it's obviously for you. And he said, yeah, sometimes I get emails that are intended for you.
Interesting, isn't it? Yeah, because I joke, right? I am Joseph M. Leonard. It looks French. It's not French. It's not Leonard. It's Leonard without an O. But there is a Joseph Leonard who is also an author from South Carolina. And I get people asking questions about, he's also a Christian author, coincidentally, too. And I get a book, an email about, what did you mean about this in your book? Well, wrong guy. I tried reaching out to him. Unfortunately, he refuses to get back to me, though. I don't understand why. Like you, I would like to converse with him because I don't doubt he gets confused for me at times, since I get confused for him.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, maybe. I mean, there must be a number. Who knows? Maybe hundreds of Joseph Leonards in the U.S. You could have a conference, all of you guys.
Yep. And there's plenty, indeed, with the O in there.
Of course. Yeah. So where does your surname come from, then, if it's not French? Is it?
Well, it actually was Leonard Owatskowicki or whatever. Okay. It's actually Polish origin, part Polish, part German, part Italian. But Leonard, I haven't dug back in the genealogy far enough to find out what it was before it got chopped to that.
That happened to a lot of names. Like my family's surname used to be Throckmorton, and they were in Pennsylvania, but then about 180 years ago when they came up to Canada, they dropped the first syllable from Throckmorton to just Morton.
Interesting. Okay, so thank you so much for coming on. I knew this would be a great, interesting conversation. That's definitely why I said to Mickey, oh, absolutely, I'd love to have you on. Yeah, again, I get tired sometimes of talking about politics. I want some interesting, different stuff. Right?
Yeah. Spice it up, so to speak.
Yep. Cooking humor. Yeah.
It's your bread and butter.
Oh, that's a perfect place to end it. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Joseph.
Thank you so much. Take care. God bless.
You too. Yeah, take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you for having tuned in for Constitutionalist Politics Show. If you haven't already, please check out my primary internationally available book, Terror Strikes, coming soon to a city near you. Available anywhere books are sold. If you have locally run bookstores still near you, they can order it for you. And let me remind, over time, the fancy high production items will come. But for now, for starters, it's just you as a very appreciated listener by me. All substance, no fluff, just straight to key discussion points. A show that looks at a variety of topics, mostly politics, through a Christian U.S. constitutionalist lens. So again, thank you from the bottom of my heart. Take care. God bless. Like and subscribe to Constitutionalist Politics Podcast and share episodes. We need your help.
Stand up for what is right. Just got every day and night. Believes in freedom and making his voice heard. Shared his message over all the earth. God bless you, Joseph, for all you do. Stand strong and God bless you.
Wham Radio, 1600 AM and 92.7 FM is your conservative flamethrower. Weekdays, Steve Gruber starts things off at 6 a.m. Gruber gives his perspective on the issues of the day. At 9 a.m., Glenn Beck blazes the airwaves with his nationally syndicated program. From noon to 3, it's Dennis Prager. At 3 o'clock, it's Wham's own Thayrone X. On the Edge, Thayrone tells it exactly as he sees it. At 6, it's The Dana Show, your conservative alternative. At 8, don't miss Joe Pags. Weekends are filled with conservative talk as well. Fingers Malloy, Thomas LeDuc, The Abolitionists Roundtable, A Moment of Clarity with Pastor Rick, Your American Heritage with Ed Bondarenka, Dave Janda's Operation Freedom, and Dick Kupke's Trigger Talk. You can even get links to Wham podcasts from Dave, Dick, and of course Thayrone, all from their pages on our website, whamradio.com. Keep it locked on Wham Radio, 1600 AM and 92.7 FM in southeastern Michigan, and whamradio.com anywhere in the world.